Okay, cool. So my name is Serena Hodge. I'm the Assistant Director of Pre-Law Advising and Pre-Graduate Education Advising within University Career Services at UNC. Thank you for joining us for Strategies for Success in Law School. We hope you will find this workshop and panel event to be informative for you all. I have a series of questions for our panelists, and then we will have time at the end for you guys to ask questions as well. So we'll get started with some introductions. Let's see, we'll start with Gus. If you could just say your first and last name, where you're currently attending law school, and what year you're currently in as well.
Sure. I'm Gus Baler. I am currently a second-year student at Duke Law, and I graduated from UNC in 2018.
Thank you, Gus. We'll go on to Jenna.
Hi, I'm Jenna Hann. I'm a 1L, just started at Georgetown Law, and I just graduated from UNC last year.
Thank you, Jenna. Next, we'll introduce Nate.
Hey everyone, my name's Nate Drumm. I'm a first-year law student at Wake Forest Law, and I graduated from UNC in 2018 with Gus.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. We have lots of questions prepared for you. And then, like I said, students will have the opportunity to post in the chat to ask questions after as well. So we'll start with Gus. What were some of the factors that you considered when you were choosing a law school?
Sure. So one of the most important things to me was going to a place that had a good sense of community. So finding a place, so I spoke with a bunch of law students that were currently attending the schools that I was considering, and seeing how they liked it, because I wanted to make sure I found a place that I would enjoy being at for 3 years. And then secondly, finding law schools that focused on the area of practice, criminal law, that I was particularly interested in, and knowing that there's faculty there that are interested in that area. For example, my criminal law professor in first year represented Ted Bundy in his death row appeal. So that factored into my decision, and then also cost, and then employment outcomes following as well.
Thank you, Gus. Jenna, what were some of the factors that you consider when you were choosing the law school that you'd be attending?
Yeah, so I think for me, the most important ended up being location. I knew I wanted to be in a city. I love going to UNC, but I wanted to have a different environment for law school. So that's how I kind of picked what schools I wanted to apply to. Also, just based on locations that I thought I might be interested in working in the future. It's great if you can, pick a location that you might want to stick with after law school, just because of how much you can network there and all the connections you can make throughout school. Other than that, I look to, like the resources that the school has, what kind of organizations do they have, if they have clinical programs that you're interested in. Some schools have really niche programs that they're really well known for. So that's something that could be important if you're very interested in a particular area of the law. How strong is their alumni network? Class size is also important, especially like Georgetown has a particularly large class. So that was something that maybe gave me a little hesitation, but then talking to people, at the school and now being in it, I realized there still is a lot of opportunity for individualized attention, but that's something to consider. And then like Gus was saying, like employment statistics, how many graduates are going into the field you're going into? Is that something that a lot of people are doing at that field, a program that the school is well known for? And then finally, scholarships. I think it can be really hard to make a decision at the end of the day if schools are going to be different costs, or you have like a gut feeling toward one, but you just kind of have to do what's best for you practically in the moment and what is best for you in the future. So it's a lot of factors, but I feel like it was a good decision at the end of the day for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Jenna. Nate, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think Jenna and Gus kind of hit them all. The big ones for me were employment outcomes. I knew I wanted to practice in North Carolina. So for me, looking at the ABA reports, figuring out which schools create North Carolina attorneys was really important, as well as things like, what size firms, does the school send lots of students to do judicial clerkships, government jobs, all that fun stuff. And then class size was huge at Wake Forest. You know, being at UNC, I remember my Econ 101 course having like 200 people, and I did not want to do that again. So at Wake Forest, you know, they said, we will cap the number of students in your first year classes at 40. And I was like, that's fantastic. I probably couldn't get, you know, but one or two classes that small at UNC. So employment and, you know, in addition to everything else, employment and class size were really what drew me to Wake Forest.
Thank you, Nate. So we'll start with Nate for the second question. What were helpful resources for you as you were on your pre-law journey?
Yeah, so I think there were three really big helpful resources. One was the ABA. They publish a lot of great data about law schools, the admission statistics, employment outcomes, transfer statistics. That was great to let me know, you know, where school's going, what's the direction. Another big thing was the UNC advising. I was there when Dr. Taylor was doing the pre-law advising, and I just remember meeting with him all throughout the process and saying, okay, let me talk to you about the Lsat. Let me talk to you about the personal statement. And, you know, as we got towards after I graduated, you know, I was able to try and keep in contact and say, you know, here's what's going on. What can I do that might strengthen my application going forward? And the last thing is honestly, alumni. UNC, I think, has a really good alumni network, whether you're a member of the Alumni Association or not. So I really just reached out to as many attorneys as I could that were UNC alums in the markets I was interested in, you know, Charlotte attorneys, Raleigh attorneys, you know, and just kind of asked them, what was their experience in law school? Did they enjoy it? You know, how did that impact their career decisions? So those were my three big.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nate. That was really helpful. Jenna, do you have any additional resources you'd like to add?
Yeah, I guess like going off of like with in terms of people that were helpful, like for sure there's, you know, so many great mentors to be found at UNC through professors or through other students. Something that was really helpful to me was I was a part of the UNC mock trial team. And so it was helpful because there was just a lot of people that were also planning on going to law school. And if that's, you know, something you're interested in joining in, it's a great organization, would highly recommend. But I know a lot of people have had a lot of success in like the pre-law society at UNC too. And that I wasn't a part of that, but I've heard it has great resources for, you know, getting your resume together and prepping for the Lsat and things like that. I also was a big fan of the UNC advising and had somebody that, you know, was able to look over my personal statement and give me just some general great tips for applying. There are also tons of outside services that I really relied on, and there's tons of different directions that you could go with those outside sources. You could pay somebody to fully go through and work on your application with you, or you could kind of just have somebody look over your final drafts and give you like one round of edits, which that's what I did, and I found that really helpful. And also like resources for the Lsat. There's just so much out there. So I think just talking to people and figuring out what's best for you. I personally use 7Sage, and I would like recommend that to anybody as well if you're looking for like very kind of like statistics oriented, how you're doing on certain elements. And like if you're very focused on like learning by watching other people doing stuff, I thought that was very helpful. So there's tons of resources out there. I think you just have to talk to people and figure out which is the right for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenna, for your input. Gus, do you have any other resources you'd like to add?
Sure. Not to repeat any of the ones that were just mentioned, all great resources. One of the resources I found very helpful was talking to current students who are going through law school and who have gone through the process recently at the time. I guess they're all graduated by now. But I was part of the UNC honor system, and there were UNC law students as well, and that participated in the honor system, and getting to network with them and talking to them about what law school was like and what their application process was like, getting a firsthand perspective on what law school is, and then also talking to family friends who were who were recently graduated attorneys to see what their practice was like, and then talking to I had the opportunity to work as a paralegal in a law firm before law school. So talking with the attorneys there and seeing what their experience was like kind of helped me throughout the process as well.
Thank you for sharing, Gus. So the next question is for Jenna and Nate. So we'll start with Jenna. How did you prepare for your first year of law school?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing I did to prepare was the summer before. I just started reading a lot whenever I had free time, just to get myself used to the idea of sitting down and reading for like a couple hours at a time, since obviously like law school is very reading heavy, and that's not something that I really experienced in my undergrad. So it didn't really matter what the subject matter was. Like I mostly just read fiction, but that was really helpful, I think, to put me in that mindset. And then just trying to get in good routines for other parts of your life. That was one of the best pieces of advice I heard. I think it was like from a law school podcast, was just that as you're going into this new journey that is filled with tons of different things you've never experienced, if you can be as set in like your personal routines as much, so that's not something you have to spend your time on, that's a really great thing that you can do. I also had a great experience working as a legal assistant at a family law firm for a solo practitioner the summer before law school, which was really helpful just to kind of get immersed in the legal environment and get familiar with some of the terms that might be used or concepts. And I think at the end of the day, the best thing was just kind of like putting my mindset into, I'm starting this law school journey. I have no idea what to expect, and just kind of really going in it with an open mind and kind of like thinking that I'm going to have to doing as much work as I can, and trying to be as prepared as possible. So since you just really don't know what to expect until you're there.
Thank you for sharing, Jenna. Nate, how did you prepare for your first year in law school?
Yeah, so what I did to prepare is essentially I didn't go straight through like Jenna did. You know, I recognized in 2018 I was tired of school. I knew if I could go to law school, but I wouldn't be happy and I wouldn't be successful. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to take a few years and do something else. So I did. I was a state probation and parole officer for about 2 years, and then I was a paralegal. So I got to kind of learn the justice system, the court system, then got to work for an attorney. And for me, that was really helpful because it just kind of helped me make sure I wanted to be an attorney. You know, I know 3 years and a lot of money, you want to make sure you're going to use that degree wisely. So really just getting that separation from undergrad, getting to, you know, grow up a little bit, really was helpful for me. And then particularly even if you don't take a gap year, the summer before, I really focused on spending time with my family and kind of solidifying, you know, personal romantic relationships and getting them ready for law school. You don't have a lot of time to go home. You don't have a lot of time to spend with family and whatnot. So I really just kind of spent that summer relaxing, you know, going to basketball games with my dad, you know, hanging out and kind of making sure those relationships were in a good place where when I did have to, you know, go 2 months without going home or without seeing someone, it would be okay. So.
Thank you so much, Nate, for sharing. That was really good insight. Let's go on to the next question, which is for Gus. How do law school courses differ from traditional undergraduate courses?
Sure. I think I'm going to say 3, but there might be more. 3 main differences. One is most of them are taught, and then this also can vary school to school and then professor to professor, but most are taught through the Socratic method, where the professor just asks a bunch of questions about a particular case that you were reading. So most of the reading is you're reading previous Supreme Court or appellate court cases. And then the professor just asks you questions about the cases until you kind of develop an understanding of the reasoning behind the cases. And then one thing that is particularly different in that method is that the professor won't necessarily tell you what the right answer is. So like in undergrad, they might say the definition of X is X, but in law school, you might be expected to like get the definition from the comments your classmates are making, and not every professor would necessarily tell you, hey, your classmate is right or wrong. But you can always, ask follow-up questions to like kind of get that understanding. The second part that's really different is that most courses the grade depends on a final exam. And that final exam, unlike undergrad, where it's just you get a whole bunch of information during the semester and then you're just regurgitating it on the exam. It's more of, here's a really crazy fact pattern that the professor devised, and then just apply all the rules and stuff you learned during the semester. And the professor doesn't really care if you get the right answer. They care more about your reasoning behind the answers that you're providing. For example, my evidence exam last semester, it was about some guy that the fact pattern was some guy went in a Justin Timberlake mask to rob a bank. And then it was about whether certain evidence about a Bruno Mars mask that was found in his car was admissible. So all of it's about trying to, figure out how to apply the rules you've learned throughout the semester. And then another major difference is that you may have classes, especially in your second and third year. Then this also can differ between schools as well, where it's more focused on practical experience. So these are like clinics where you're actually going and representing actual clients in court, or filing motions with court, that sort of stuff. Or recently I finished the trial practice class where the final exam was actually going up and doing a whole mock trial in front of the professor. So it can be a bit different from undergrad.
Thank you so much for sharing, Gus. That
absolutely.
was very interesting. Thank you. We have had our fourth panelist join us, is Trey Ellis. So if Trey, you'd like to introduce yourself, what year you currently are in, and also what school you are at.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Trey Ellis. My apologies for my tardiness. Had a meeting run over that I wasn't able to get out of, and didn't take a look at my email to check and see. But yes, glad to be here today. My name is Trey Ellis. I'm a 3L at UNC School of Law. And yes, excited to graduate here in a few months. I attended Vanderbilt University for my undergrad, where I studied political science with a minor in Spanish, and where I also played football. And so after I completed my undergrad, I did a Master of Marketing at Vanderbilt's Business School, which was a one-year accelerated marketing program. And yes, after finishing that program, was in law school. So went straight from the field to the legal field. So extremely excited to be here again. Forgive me again. Just that's one thing about law school. Meetings just sometimes run over. So you learn that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trey. So we'll go on to the next question. What do you think are skills that are needed for law school? And we'll start with Nate.
Yeah, so the big skill that I'm trying to develop, because I'm not the best at it, is resiliency. Law school for me, and I think a lot of my classmates, is just a series of stumbling blocks. We love it, but you're doing something new that you've never done before. I think most of us would say we didn't know how to read a court opinion when we got there. We weren't used to, just professors asking us questions and not really letting us know what the answer was. So there are going to be times when you're struggling, where you feel overwhelmed, but really the skill you need to make it through law school is resiliency, being able to bounce back, being able to let it go, say, I've had a hard day, I've had a hard week, but I'm going to get through it. I'm going to make it to that cherished 3L year with Trey down there. We will almost be there. So that's the big one for me.
Thank you so much, Nate. Jenna, do you have anything you'd like to add about skills necessary for law school?
Yeah, I think Nate kind of hit the nail on the head there. That's definitely a great skill to have and definitely necessary. I would add on to that, kind of on the same wavelength, having an open mind. I think law school is like the perfect environment for you to form just very educated, informed opinions on things that you may have never had a chance to consider seriously, because you're kind of learning how these areas of the law impact your daily life. So there's a great opportunity to change your thinking, change your mindset. And even if you end up coming into law school and leaving with the same opinions you've already had, you need to be able to learn how to articulate arguments on both sides of an issue. And so having an open mind is a really important skill to have, to be able to do that and to be able to appreciate the merits of arguments on issues you don't agree on from a legal perspective, but to still be able to appreciate those arguments and articulate them at the end of the day. And then I think everything else you can learn in law school. There's a lot of skills, like analytical thinking, research skills, writing skills that you need to be a successful law student. But everyone comes into law school with just such different backgrounds and such different skills. And the school just really, gives you the resources that you need to learn these lawyering skills. And they really just do come with time. And it might seem scary at first. Like Nate was saying, we don't know how to read court cases, but then you learn and you do it and it's great. And I think these are all skills that, you're at UNC, you're all successful people and you're going to learn in law school. And I think everything is pretty learnable.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenna. Our next question is for Gus. How has your second year of law school been different from your first year of law school?
Sure. Well, besides the obvious that it's in person instead of virtual, one of the biggest differences, at least at Duke, and this might be different across schools, is that you get to actually pick your schedule and the classes that you want to take. I believe most law schools may have a set curriculum for first-year students. So you have in the second year and third year, you have a freedom to actually choose the courses and the path that you, and the materials you want to study. And you also get to become more involved in leadership and student organizations as well. So, for example, I'm the treasurer of the Duke Bar Association, which is our student government. So you do get to become a little bit more involved and have a little more say in your schedule, as well as a lot of the courses then also focus on practical experience, like I said, with clinics and being able to actually go and represent clients in real matters, because especially particularly in North Carolina, you're allowed to actually practice under the supervision of an attorney as a second year law student.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Gus. The next question is for Trey. As a third year student, what has been the most enjoyable aspect of law school?
Yes, well, aside from what Gus said as well, with it being a majority in-person experience, so that's one of the great things. I'd say I'll start, I guess, with an extracurricular. So like Gus, I'm involved in the student Student Bar Association at UNC Law. I'm the student body president. So Gus, tell your president I said hello. I hope she's doing well. I was on a call with her not too long ago. But being involved in that and being able to advocate and interact with students in the law school has been a great experience. I think one of the things that is amazing about law school in particular is that you are literally in class with, especially if you're thinking about practicing in the state of North Carolina, you're in class and are interacting daily with attorneys that you will be practicing with in the future and, for the remainder of your legal career, especially again, if you're remaining in the state. So just having that opportunity to be able to interact and meet a lot of classmates and see a lot of people is something that I've loved during this third year. From more of an academic but still like practical perspective, I don't know how it works at other law schools, but your third year is when the majority of law students do what's called clinic, which is basically an opportunity to be able to get real world lawyering experience, be able to interact with clients, work on actual cases. At the law school, I'm involved in the military and veterans law clinic. And I love this clinic. It's the opportunity to be able to help military veterans who have discharges that are less than honorable, be able to upgrade their discharge statuses to give them access to VA benefits. And so, it's a great experience. And really, again, I like people. I think that's one of the biggest parts of lawyering to me. And so it's a great opportunity for client interaction. So was able to do that, and also in the fall semester, extern for a judge. And so just a bunch of great things outside of the law school physical building itself that were opportunities that I took advantage of my third year. And so a mixture of all of those things in that answer. But yeah, those are the things I've enjoyed most this year.
Awesome, thank you so much. For the next question, we'll start with Gus. How have you networked throughout law school?
Sure. So one of the my primary source of networking, I think, and the most important, and this may go against conventional wisdom, but it's networking with your fellow classmates. These are the people that you're going to be practicing law alongside when you graduate. They'll be the ones that are in your same associate year or right, and eventually you'll be building those relationships now, right, then fosters future relationships when you're all practicing. You can bounce ideas off each other, obviously keeping confidentiality in mind. But then also you get picking professors, going to office hours, and then getting to talk to professors like Trey was talking about, and getting a sense of their experience. Many law schools, have really experienced faculty that have been practicing attorneys. Most law professors have practiced as attorneys, and have really great war stories if you sit down and get to listen to them. And then some of them, like one of my professors, turned out to be former colleagues with my future employer. So that will be a great connection for me once I'm pursuing postgraduate employment with that office. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gus. Trey, could you talk to us a little bit about your networking experience throughout law school?
Yeah, I think Gus, again, hit it on the head. Networking, one, with your classmates, two, with your professors. If I could add just one thing that was very crucial in my time is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is, I'm sure you all are aware, very important thing and popular thing, professional social networking site and app. And just being able to use that to your benefit, being able to search for jobs via that, communicate with recruiters via that was very helpful on my search. And yeah, attending job fairs that the law school holds. No matter what law school you go to, at some point there probably will be some form of a job fair, likely at the beginning of the school year, especially your 1L year, to kind of gauge and interact with people in case you don't know where your interests lie. And so just, yeah, and kind of going back to what Jenna said earlier, just having an open mind in the vein that you want to just cast a wide net and expose yourself to as many people of as many different fields as possible. And I think that's kind of how I was able to do it. I worked for the North Carolina Department of Justice my 1L summer, and then flipped and worked for a firm my 2L summer. And so not working for a firm my 1L summer, but keeping those contacts at that firm and just staying in touch. And also, yeah, that's another main point. Consistency in your keeping in touch and interactions with any contacts that you may get. That's a big key point, because that may, in the end, even though you're not working for an employer that you may want to work for in the future, can help you stand out when the final say is held. So yeah, just LinkedIn, consistency in people that I did meet, and yeah, just interacting with professors and students as much as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trey. Our next question is going to be for all panelists. So it's about challenges. What was the most challenging thing about your law school experience? And what advice would you give to a future law school student about how to overcome this challenge? We'll start with Trey.
Yeah, so I know y'all have heard enough of me talking, but I'm right back at it. But I think I have a unique perspective when it comes to this question. So kind of in giving y'all a little bit of background on me, earlier on, like y'all heard, I played football in college. And so during that 1 year where I got my marketing degree from the business school, I was also still playing football. And so coming to law school literally a year like after I had been on the football field, like was a huge like transition for me in many ways. In many ways, I learned a lot of things playing football that were helpful. But that was one thing that I felt like, for me specifically was interesting because I literally gone from doing something my whole life that was my passion my whole life to no longer doing it and just being in a completely different realm. And so that's like a unique thing. But one thing that I think might be similar to others is coming from, a background of what I thought was preparation for law school. So like political science, Master of Marketing. So like writing and using like persuasion to, get people to be able to understand an argument or to align with the argument that I'm putting forth. I thought, prepared me for law school. And that was, not as much the case as I thought. Law school just teaches you a whole different way of thinking about things. And though those things to an extent are in preparation, just breaking down really the constructs that are already in your mind about how to approach an argument is something that I thought was a big challenge for me, especially in thinking that the background that I had, dead set on prepared me for that. And so I think that was what was most challenging, just learning that new way of thinking in the law school. But I mean, it is challenging to learn, but once you got it, you got it. So don't fret in that. But yeah, that was the biggest challenge for me.
Thank you for sharing, Trey. Jenna, what was some challenge that you faced and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I would say this is probably a challenge felt by a lot of first-year law students, but I really struggled with the transition from the structure of undergrad classes to the structure of law school classes. I was definitely an undergrad, like always on like the grade calculator apps being like, okay, this, I know like 20% of my grade, like I have to get this on the final to get this grade. And that's just so not the case in law school. Like Gus was saying, like your grade pretty much depends on your final. And so you have to kind of put the onus on yourself to put the work in that you need to do throughout the semester, even though nothing is graded. So staying on top of your readings, putting in the effort to your like legal writing classes that aren't graded, but you need to develop these skills. So it's really kind of just finding that self-motivation and working throughout the semester. And it was a challenge, but I think if you do the things that you need to do to keep up and really just put 100% of your effort into school, it can be really rewarding at the end of the semester. And I think in terms of advice that I would give to other people on this issue, I would say, just don't be worried about what your peers are doing. I think it's really easy to compare yourself to other people in law school, but everyone has just extremely different circumstances in their lives. Some people have families, some people are fresh out of college and like are kind of continuing through school like myself. So just don't compare yourself to other people. Everyone's going to study in different ways. Don't listen to the people that are posting that they're at the library 24/7 and don't feel bad that you're not at the library 24/7 or that you're taking a break for your mental health. Like, just don't compare yourself to people, and talk to, upperclassmen mentors, tell them what you've been doing to prepare for exams throughout the semester and see kind of what they think as people that have been through that process. That's been really helpful to me. And, just making schedules of how you want to go about your work and how you want to get things done. So I think it was just the challenge was the transition to being a lot more self-reliant on your own scheduling and habits. But I think it's definitely doable. And after the first semester, it seems like, okay, now this is just what we're doing and we're going to go through it.
Thank you so much for sharing that advice, Jenna. Nate, do you have a challenge that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's very similar to Jenna, but I think time management and not overwhelming yourself is a huge challenge because like she said, you don't have this structure that undergrad have, you kind of have the syllabus and it's your job to keep track of the reading. But at the same time, you're open to so much else in law school. Law schools have dozens of clubs and organizations you can get involved with, dozens of pro bono clinics for volunteer work. So I joined like 2 executive boards my first semester, and then I do admissions stuff. And there are competitions. We had 2 mock trial competitions one L could do, a transactional law competition, a moot court competition. There's just so much to get involved with. And I think, some of us get a little ambitious and we say, I want to do it all. I want to go to every speaking event. I want to do every club. And really, you have to give yourself the time to be a student. Being in law school, you're learning how to learn all over again. It isn't learning like undergrad. It is a brand new process. So I think it can be really challenging not to give yourself that time to, feel kind of guilty about saying, oh gosh, I'm not doing this club or I'm not doing this pro bono activity. And really, like Jenna said, don't compare yourself. It is completely okay. You are going to be the person that knows you best. You're going to know how much time you need to do things and how much you need to learn. So I would just say, be patient. A lot of stuff can wait till second semester or 2L year or a 3L year. Just manage your time and make sure you give yourself time to learn the process.
Thank you so much for that guidance, Nate. We will end the question with Gus. Did you have a law school challenge that you faced? And then do you have any guidance on overcoming that?
Sure. Well, very similar to everyone else, I think school life balance is I guess it's a running pattern in law school, finding a way to balance law school with, and I think Nate was talking about this earlier about with family relationships and other sorts of things that happen in life that isn't law school, because law school isn't 100% of your life, and being able to take a step back and realize that. So personally, since like Nate, I took some time off before law school. I was used to working that 9 to 5, so I went in treating law school as a 9 to 5, and kind of so having a set time for classes and then scheduling my study time, my reading time within that 9 to 5 block, as within reason. Obviously, sometimes it's spread above that, but then having personal limits, like knowing that Saturdays I will do no law school work whatsoever, unless extenuating, like there was some extenuating circumstance, like an appellate brief due at midnight on that Sunday. But trying to set those boundaries and that division between law school life and outside life, so that you don't go crazy after your first couple semesters in law school.
Thank you so much, Gus. We will end with our final question from our list of questions, and then we will have time for the students to ask questions by posting in the chat. The last question I have for you guys: is there anything you wish you knew about law school before attending? And we'll start with Jenna.
Yeah, this is something I definitely have been at least hinting at throughout the rest of my answers, but I think something that just can't be overstated, and both how maybe intimidating it can be as somebody coming straight from college, but also as just a really cool thing, is just how everyone is coming to law school from such different places. Some people are fresh out of college. Some people are coming from being literally the CEO of a business or something crazy. They've had this other full, very successful career, and now you're all here and you're all just students together. Some people are coming into law school with tons of family members and friends that are lawyers, and they basically, have their job all but lined up for them. Some people, like I'm a first generation law student. I don't know anyone that's a lawyer. That was a little bit intimidating going into law school. And I don't think I realized how much I didn't know until I got to law school and was hearing all these different kind of conversations about where on this spectrum people land. But no matter where you are, you just have to kind of, be yourself, take the resources you need. I found joining Affinity groups really helpful, like groups of people like the Women of Color Collective or the First Generations Law Students collective association, one of those. But just affinity groups that can really help you find your place at school and get the resources that you need to be successful. And just know that there are no, stupid questions. Like, everyone is just at such a different place in law school. Everyone's coming from super different backgrounds, and it's intimidating, but it's really cool and a very unique opportunity to law school.
Thank you, Jenna. Nate, is there anything you wish you knew about law school before attending?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, you plan to go to law school, you read all the journals, you talk with attorneys about their time in law school. I think it can be really easy to focus on the negative, like just hear like, oh, you're not going to have any life. All you're going to be doing is reading, like this, that, and the other. Law school's fun. At the end of the day, I wake up and enjoy every part of my day. Now, don't always enjoy, reading a lot, but law school is so much fun. I've made so many friends that I just know I'm going to be friends with for life. Like, you build such a bond with everyone you meet in law school. There is so much to do beyond just the reading and the writing and preparing for exams. So I think it's all about mindset. As you're exploring going to law school, as you're exploring being an attorney, just keep that mindset that it is going to be fun. You can make it a fun, enjoyable experience, even though you're having to work hard. So big piece of advice, as you attend panels, as you read things, don't get all depressed. Don't be dreading it, because it really is a fun time, even if you do work hard.
Awesome. Thank you for the reminder that law school can be fun, Nate. Gus, is there anything you wish you knew about law school before attending?
Sure. I'll preface this by saying that yes, law school can be fun, and I have enjoyed my experience before scaring everyone off. But one thing I wish I did know, and I think Jenna did allude to this earlier with her prep and reading a lot before. I knew there was going to be a lot of reading coming in, but I didn't know just how much. I had a professor that assigned overnight 100 pages of reading. So it can be intense, but like Nate said, it is manageable, and you can focus on other things and have fun and make good connections as well. So law school really is what you choose to make of it. But I really wish I had tempered my expectations a little bit with the amount of reading.
So thank you for sharing. So our final panelist to answer this question is Trey. Is there anything you wish you knew about law school before attending?
Yeah, my answer kind of goes off of Jenna's theme of, everyone just coming from so many different circumstances. Your journey is your journey. And so any advice or any help that you receive from other law students, I would factor that into your own personal decisions. So traditionally, in going through the job search process or whatever, you're categorized into at times certain jobs based off of how you performed or the type of student you are. But if you have a dream of working as a certain attorney or wanting to pursue a certain field, even in this process of applying to law schools, if you want to go to this specific law school and this is your dream law school, shoot for it, and don't let any factors, and not to say that there aren't other factors that play into that, but if you have somewhere or a goal that you're trying to reach, and sometimes things are speaking against that, or the factors or numbers of the world are speaking against that, don't let that hinder you from at least trying, because you never know where you might end up. So that's one thing that coming into law school, keep that in mind as you're entering into classes and entering into looking into where you might want to work and practice as an attorney.
Thank you so much, Trey. So we have finished our set of questions that were pre-prepared. We will give it a couple minutes for the students to post any questions that they have for the panelists. You can just use the chat feature. You can select everyone or the hosts and panelists. So this is your time now as a student to ask questions for our panelists. So we'll give it a few minutes and see if we have any student questions. Okay, so it looks like we have received a question. Are there any suggestions you have for finding a summer internship for undergraduate students seeking to go to law school? So asking about summer internship opportunities. We'll start the question with Trey, if you have a response on that.
Yes, so I know, I don't know specifically about summer opportunities like in that specific season, but I do know a good deal of my classmates worked as paralegals for law firms prior to coming to law school. So, you know, that's essentially an opportunity to be able to work with attorneys and work in a law firm, helping attorneys with various tasks. And so that's an opportunity to be as very much interacting with the law in a law firm kind of environment. From more of a public sector perspective, I know that the General Assembly has internships as well for people, you know, aspiring to do legal work in government. So that's an opportunity. And yeah, I don't know if I can speak towards specifically the summer piece of it, but those are two examples of like internships that I know are available to undergraduate students.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trey. Nate, do you have anything to add about summer internship opportunities or just internship opportunities in general?
Yeah, so I think there are two big things. So preface, I did not do a summer internship. I did summer classes throughout UNC. Terrible mistake. Should have done an internship, but regardless. I would definitely reach out to UNC alums that are attorneys, and you can just start the conversation by asking, hey, would you be available for coffee one day? Or, you know, if you're going to be in court, would you mind if I shadowed you for a day? And, you know, while that may not lead to, you know, an internship offer that day, bring it up, you know, while you're doing that shadowing, while you're doing that coffee, because attorneys talk. Even in a big city like Charlotte or Raleigh, all the attorneys know each other. So if you can get your foot in the door and really, you know, just get your name out there and say, hey, I'm interested in this, you'll be surprised. Attorneys will talk. They'll let each other know. And one day you may just wake up to an email or a phone call saying, hey, I spoke with my colleague downtown and he's looking for an intern, or he's looking for someone to do a little part-time work over the summer. Would you be interested in me sharing your info? So I don't know how to summarize that. Really don't kind of narrow yourself into, oh, I need to have an internship. Start a little broad. Start with the, oh, can I get coffee with you? Can I shadow with you? And kind of once you build those connections, something will come up eventually.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Nate. We got another question about everyone's favorite topic, which is the LSAT. So do you have any tips for preparing for the LSAT? And this question can start with Jenna.
Yeah, I feel like it was good timing for me because I started studying for the LSAT like March 2020 when we were sent home from UNC for COVID reasons, obviously. So I had like a lot of you know, more free time to be at home, couldn't really leave to study. So that was a unique circumstance, but I think I would say, people study for all different lengths of times for the exam. I think I did about maybe 3 to 4 months. But I would, just before you jump into it, I would say do talk to people that have been through it, get some firsthand experience, see what different resources on the internet have to say, find a study tool that is, going to be affordable for you and also very helpful. There's free study tools. There's ones that I found are pretty affordable. I'll plug again 7Sage. I just really enjoyed the way that information was presented. And I thought it offered a lot of helpful statistics about how you're doing and how you're progressing through the material and on practice exams. And then I think, doing enough practice exams that you feel comfortable with the material is really helpful, especially leading up to the test, doing exams in that setting that you're going to be actually taking the exam in, since I think they're all online now. So you're just going to be kind of in your room, showing that you don't have anything bad behind your camera and taking the Lsat online, which is a fun experience. But I think just, preparing to the point where you feel comfortable. Everyone's journey is different. Start with that, first diagnostic test and see where you're at with the material, and then take it from there. Get advice from other people that have been through it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenna. Gus, is there any other tips you have for preparing for the LSAT?
Sorry, been off of Zoom for a while. Forget that how to unmute myself. Yeah, the only thing I would add is just I personally really like and I hate plugging companies, but I really benefited from the Power Score LSAT Bibles. I thought they did a very comprehensive job of covering tips and tricks and really how to approach the LSAT besides actual, because the LSAT isn't a very substantive exam. It's more of how to take the exam that is important. So I thought that they had the most useful tips of the books I encountered.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Gus. The attendees, I don't know if you all are on the pre-law advising listserv. If you're not, you can join at prelaw.unc.edu. But I have sent out information from the Learning Center. They do have a partnership with the Princeton Review, and now they have changed their strategy sessions a little bit. They're offering them online, but they also have an on-demand LSAT test that you can take for free. So if you want to look into that, you'll just go to the UNC Learning Center's website. The next question is about personal statements. Do you guys have any advice for personal statements? Does any panelist feel like they would like to answer this question about personal statements?
I can go for it. Sorry, Nate. I saw your mic come off too. I'll just keep it short and sweet. I would say just, I was definitely one of those people that was like, I feel like I don't have something super groundbreaking or amazing to write about, but just do something that's very genuine to you and something that's going to come off as something that's just truly speaks to who you are as a person. It doesn't have to be something that's incredible. It doesn't have to be something super amazing or super terrible that happened in your life. It can just be something that's true to who you are and talks to you about, why you want to go to law school. They want to see that you're an interesting person that's going to bring a lot of well-roundedness to their school and a lot of just passion and interest for the law and for going to law school. So as long as you can make those things shine in your personal statement, I think that you'll have a lot of success.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenna. Nate, is there anything else you want to add about personal statements?
Yeah, kind of going off the same route. There's no one size fits all to a personal statement. It really is personal to you. And the way I thought about it is, a lot of these law schools, they get way too many applicants to interview people. At least at Wake, they don't do formal interviews as part of the admission process. So really think of your personal statement as an interview. Tell a story you would about, why you're going to law school, because this is really their chance to know you as a person. And the other thing, which is just a little more on the technical side, in law school, they really like conciseness. It isn't one of those things where we want you to write to 20 pages just so you can reach 20 pages. If they say 4-page max and you really feel like you can say everything you need to say in 3 pages, that's okay. Don't feel like you need to do all the filler. They really appreciate conciseness. They appreciate that, you respect their time and aren't just filling it in. So that's a more technical piece that I've learned.
Thank you so much for sharing, Nate. This question will go to Trey. Hi, I'm graduating this May and applying for paralegal positions at law firms for my gap years. Do you have any recommendations for my job search and or finding firms that are open to hiring recent graduates?
Well, that's a great question. I guess I can just answer the question from the perspective that I used in my job search as in wanting to work as a summer associate for a law firm, and maybe that will be helpful. I think it runs parallel a little bit. The main factor for me, because honestly, a lot of law firms have similar messaging about that they're an awesome law firm to work at, which I'm sure a lot of them are, but a great judge, I guess, of a good work environment is the people. And so I guess the interactions that you might have with the attorneys there, any kind of way to get the vibe of what working with people in that environment would be like is the best bet. I think that any law firm that you go to as a paralegal, you'll have a great experience to be able to glean a lot of legal knowledge and practical experience in touching the law as much as possible. But to the extent that, like, in searching for specific firms or specific employers, I would say the people, and also as a kind of tangential factor, your area of interest that the firm may, if you do have an interest, which you may not at all, but the area of interest or a practice group that the firm or employer may have to offer. And so kind of mixing those two things together and figuring out, are you vibing with the people that are in the office? And also, like, is there something that's catching your eye from a substance perspective in being able to touch that specific area of law? And so those are the recommendations of like factors I would take into consideration when considering paralegal positions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trey. Gus, is there anything you'd like to add to this question?
Sure. So I was a paralegal for a couple of years after graduating from UNC. I actually found my position through Handshake. So there's a plug for Handshake. And one of the other things I did was I went through the Vault 100 list, which is essentially the equivalent of the US News Report, but for major law firms. And I went down that list and went to the law firms' websites and their career page, and saw if they had postings open. And a lot of those law firms do have postings that specifically for recent grads. Because they know that a lot of people go from undergrad, seek a paralegal job, and then with the intention of going to law school. So there are actually a lot of those law firms that have programs where they will have 2-year cohorts of paralegals that then intend to go into law school.
Thank you so much for your response, Gus, and just letting us know that you found your position on Handshake. So this will be the final question of the evening, and I definitely want to give each panelist the opportunity to answer this. Law school is a big investment, so what specific pre-law school experiences helped you know that it was the right move for you? We might have some attendees tonight that are considering law school, but they haven't just made their final decision that they will be going to law school. So are there any pre-law experiences that helped you know that you were making the right decision? And we'll start with Nate.
Yeah, so I really think, I mean, I'm not trying to say you have to take a gap year in between school, but I think it was for me taking time off. I thought, watching Matlock, Law and Order, Criminal Minds, all these lovely crime shows, I thought I was going to be like Gus. I was going to be the next great prosecutor or defense attorney. And I spent a year working in the criminal justice system. And now I have no interest in doing that. So, I mean, a lot of it is, if you're interested in being a paralegal, great. You'll get a lot of great experience in and around a law firm, but also take a little time to explore other areas that interest you. If you're interested in marketing, spend some time in that, because marketing firms have legal departments. If you're interested in education, spend some time in that, because you can explore the law in substantive ways different than, oh, I have to be a paralegal, I have to be a legal assistant or a legal secretary or whatever it is. So really for me, it was that time after undergrad where I really just kind of looked at my life and said, what do I want to do? And it came down to, I really liked the court system. I love that part of my job. I went and became a paralegal for a year. I love getting to work with clients. I love the writing, the reading aspect. And really, it just kind of made sense for me. It wasn't any one light bulb moment. It was just, okay, I've given myself time to explore different substance areas, different practice areas. And I feel like, this is what I want to do with my life. So I know that's a little murky, but just give yourself time, explore, other opportunities that aren't, laser focused on the law, because you might find that that is something that inspires you to go to law school.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nate. Jenna, were there any pre-law experiences that helped you know law school was the right move for you?
Yeah, I would say the biggest, how I figured out I wanted to go to law school was I started doing mock trial in high school. Then I continued to do that in college. I do it in law school now too. So clearly that was like a driving factor for me, but I also knew coming into my senior year of college, I was still pretty set on going to law school, but I knew that mock trial was absolutely just fake law. That was way more about whimsical acting pretty much than actual law. So I knew I wanted to figure out if I wanted to actually go to law school and practice law. So I ended up doing, and this is kind of goes back to the searching for internships question too. I ended up just cold reaching out to a bunch of attorneys around Chapel Hill, just kind of offering to volunteer for them and kind of shadow, as Nate was saying. And it ended up leading to a paid secretary job, which I was able to do a lot of substantive drafting and meeting with clients, and really kind of just got my hand in the legal field before law school. And I think that was the experience for me, getting to see the daily life of an attorney, and in a field I'm not necessarily interested in going into, but just seeing the kind of work that a real attorney does, getting to be in and out of the court system a little bit. That made me realize that I really wanted to go to law school, because I liked not only the mock trial, fun litigation aspect of that, but I liked the daily work as well. So I think any opportunity you can to explore your interests outside of law, but also to see, just talk to somebody about their daily life or see it firsthand is a really great affirming way to figure out if you want to go to law school, if you don't want to take a gap year, because that's what I did. I went straight through. So from a different perspective than Nate.
Thank you so much for talking about your experiences, Jenna. Gus, do you have any pre-law school experiences that helped you decide that law school was the right fit for you?
Sure. Like I said, I worked as a paralegal for a couple of years, and I know that you don't necessarily have to work as a paralegal to be able to get an understanding of what the law is or what. But I think the most important thing that I learned from my time as a paralegal was not necessarily from the actual work I was doing as a paralegal, although I did get to work with clients and do some of that substantive work Jenna was talking about. I think the most important part was being able to interact with the attorneys in the office and get a sense of what their experience was like, their experience going through law school, and some of them were recent law school grads. And then also through the UNC honor system, getting to talk to current law students at the time and seeing what their experience was like. So I think, and then also talking with practicing attorneys to see what practice is like, because you're not going to be able to necessarily get a job in every single possible field of law. But one of the things that at least they tell us to do at Duke is to cold email random attorneys at different firms and just schedule informational interviews. Just say, hey, I'm a student at UNC and I'm interested in going into law school. And I would like to get to know more about this particular practice area. I can take 10, 20 minutes of your time where I can ask you some questions about what your day-to-day life is like, or what law school is like for you. And especially if there are UNC alums, they'll be more than happy to take your call or your email or Zoom call or whatever.
Thank you so much for sharing, Gus. That was really helpful. And then we'll end this question, and this is our final question, so we'll end with Trey. Are there any specific pre-law school experiences that helped you know law school was the right fit for you?
Yeah, so I'm coming from more of, I guess, a sentimental perspective with this answer. But to me, the main thing that attracted me to law school was just the opportunity to be able to help others and to help people and to serve others. Like Jenna, I'm a first generation law student, soon to be first generation attorney. And I didn't have any family members or anyone that went to law school. In that same vein, like prior to law school, I didn't do any like legal related like work. But one of the things that I did do in one of the summers between football seasons was I worked for a nonprofit in Nashville, which is where Vanderbilt's located, Volunteer Tennessee. And so participated in a lot of community service and was just like, law school had always been something that like had been like in my mind at some point. In the future, I knew I wanted to do it. But just having the opportunity to be able to use the skills that you learn or use the circumstances that you're blessed with to be able to help others is really what the thing that most attracted me to go into law school. Because that's what, being a lawyer is at its base. You have people that have forms of problems or forms of issues and are looking to you for forms of solutions. And so in that regard, you are, helping people when they are not at the best point in their lives oftentimes. And so just being able to be that person and to be able to use the talents and skills that we, gain from law school to be able to be used to the benefit of others is something that was definitely very attractive to me. And I think the main thing, that compelled me to go to law school.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trey. Thank you to all the panelists, Gus, Nate, Trey, and Jenna. You guys have all provided such helpful information for strategies for success in law school and just some things for students to think about. I know for myself, I am the new pre-law assistant director since September. So this has been really helpful for me to know all this information too. Just quickly in the chat, I'm going to be posting a survey. If you are a student attendee, please click the link so that you could fill out the survey. Oh, Trey, do you have a question?
Oh yeah, no, I just wanted to add in too, again, I am a 3L, I will be graduating this year. And so along the same vein of the amazing panelists that I sat on here with that mentioned earlier, reaching out for lunch, coffee, or whatever to attorneys, I will be in the area, so I'll be clerking for the North Carolina Supreme Court next year for Justice Ervin. So I'll still be in the Triangle area. So to the extent that anyone wants to get coffee or lunch or something like that, please feel free to reach out. Just wanted to throw that plug in there for people that would want to get together and learn more about law school. So. Awesome.
Thank you, Trey. And it looks like some of the other panelists have also put their contact info in the chat. Thank you guys so much for attending. Thank you again to the panelists. I have put a survey in the chat as well for the student attendees. I will also send a follow-up email just with that survey to the student attendees because I know some people had to leave a little bit early. And then the video recording of this will be on our YouTube page, UNC UCS. So thank you all again. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.